You're not a real pilot. Captain Jake Morrison said it with the casual arrogance of someone who'd spent 3,000 hours flying F-35 fighter jets. He stood in the hangar of the Air Force Museum, surrounded by gleaming modern aircraft, supersonic, computer-assisted, weapons-loaded killing machines that represented the pinnacle of aviation technology. He'd been invited to give a lecture on the evolution of military aviation, and the museum had arranged for some historical pilots to attend as a gesture of respect for the past. One of them was an old man sitting quietly in a wheelchair near the exit. William Bill Harrison, 97 years old, wearing a faded bomber jacket with a patch that read 325th Glider Infantry Regiment. When the Q&A began, someone asked Jake about the bravest pilots in history, expecting him to name test pilots or astronauts. Instead, Jake smirked and said, "The bravest? Easy. Modern fighter pilots. We fly at Mach 2, engage enemy aircraft, make split-second decisions with million-dollar equipment. That's real flying." From the back, Bill's quiet voice interrupted. "What about pilots who flew with no engine?" Jake turned, confused. "I'm sorry, no engine," Bill repeated, his weathered hands steady on the wheelchair armrests. "No weapons, no radar, no radio sometimes. Just a glider, made of wood and canvas, towed by a C-47, then released over enemy territory. Land behind enemy lines. In the dark. Under fire. One-way trip." Jake laughed uncomfortably. "Gliders? Those weren't real combat aircraft. You were just passengers." The C-47 pilots did the flying. Bill looked at him calmly. September 17, 1944. Operation Market Garden, Netherlands. I flew a Waco CG-48 glider carrying 13 paratroopers into Arnhem. Released at 1,500 feet. Descended in silence. No engine noise to warn the Germans. Landed in a field 200 yards from enemy positions. All 13 men survived the landing. I didn't. Jake's smile faded. "You didn't survive?" "Technically," Bill said quietly, "I died twice that day. Once when we crash-landed through a fence. Once when a German soldier shot me in the chest while I was pulling men from the wreckage. Medics revived me both times." Bill's pale blue eyes met Jake's. "So tell me, Captain Morrison, you fly a plane with 2 engines, ejection seats, and billion-dollar defense systems. I flew a wooden box with wings, no engine, no weapons, and a 30% casualty rate. Which one of us was a real pilot?" In the corner, a young aviation historian, Sarah Chun, 29, the museum's World War II department head, had frozen. She'd never heard Bill's story before. But now she was listening. So was Jake. For the first time, his arrogance was gone. 30% casualty rate. Jake asked quietly. That's unacceptable by modern standards." "Yes," Bill said. "But in 1944, we had no other choice." Operation Market Garden, Bill began, eyes distant. September 1944. The Allies wanted to enter the Netherlands. The fastest route to Germany. But there was a problem. Rivers. Bridges. Bill looked at Sarah. The plan was, drop 35,000 paratroopers and glider infantry deep into the Netherlands. Arnhem, Nijmegen, Eindhoven. Capture the bridges. Then tank units would advance and enter Germany. War over by Christmas. But, Bill's voice trembled, the plan failed. Because intelligence was wrong. At Arnhem, we landed, right next to SS Panzer divisions. Jake leaned forward. "How did you get assigned to gliders?" Bill smiled sadly. "I volunteered. 1942. I was 22 years old. I wanted to be a pilot. But not a fighter pilot. Too much training, too much time. But glider pilot. Glider pilot was 4 months of training." "Fast?" Sarah asked. "What's it like flying a glider?" Bill closed his eyes, remembering. "Terrifying. Because a glider is just a box. 48-foot wingspan. Wooden frame. Canvas covering. And inside, 2 pilots, 13 soldiers, or a jeep, or a cannon. No engine," Bill continued. "So the C-47 tows us. 300-foot rope. At 1,500 feet altitude. 120 miles per hour speed. And when we reach the target zone, the rope is released." Bill opened his eyes. And suddenly, silence. No engine. Just wind. And we descend. From 1,500 feet to ground. 5 minutes. No control. No engine. No throttle. Just wings. And direction. Jake asked, "Where did you land?" "A field," Bill said. "Hopefully. But sometimes trees. Sometimes buildings. Sometimes German positions." Bill described his first mission. September 17th, 1944. 1 p.m. Takeoff from England. "I was in the cockpit," Bill said, "with my co-pilot. His name was Tommy, 21 years old. Texas. First mission. And in the back, 13 paratroopers. 82nd Airborne. All young. 19, 20 years old. The C-47 tows us." Bill's voice was hoarse. "And we crossed the English Channel. Enter the Netherlands. And below, German fire begins. Flak." Bill trembled. "Anti-aircraft guns. Exploding in the sky. Black smoke. And the rope is shaking. The C-47 is shaking. And we're just hanging. Can't do anything." Bill closed his eyes. And suddenly, the rope released. "We're free." And the descent began. Sarah asked, "What did you feel?" Bill opened his eyes, with tears. "Terror. Because below was Arnhem. And the Germans were firing. From everywhere. Machine guns. Cannons. And we were descending silently. Wind sound. Bullet sounds. And silence. The landing zone," Bill continued. "We were supposed to see a field. But I couldn't see. Because smoke. Fire. Chaos. And I landed in the nearest open space." "A fence," Bill whispered. "I landed through a fence. The glider's nose hit the fence. 80 miles per hour. And the glider shattered. The nose broke off. Wings broke. And we rolled." Bill closed his eyes. "Tommy died. Immediately. A fence post pierced his head. He was 21 years old. First mission. Last mission." No one in the room was speaking. Jake had tears in his eyes. "And Bill cried. "My heart stopped. Impact. Chest trauma. 45 seconds. The medic revived me. CPR. And I came back. But it wasn't over," Bill said, voice raspy. "Because 13 paratroopers were still inside. In the wreckage. Trapped. And the Germans were coming." Bill tried to stand, but remained in the wheelchair. Sarah came to him, put her hand on his shoulder. "I pulled them out," Bill continued. "One by one. Out of the wreckage. And when I pulled out the 11th man, a bullet. Through my chest. German soldier, 50 meters away." Bill touched his chest. "Lung. Bleeding. And I fell again. Lost consciousness. Clinically dead. 63 seconds this time. But the medic," Bill smiled through tears, "revived me again. And I pulled out the last 2 men. All 13. All alive." Jake approached, held Bill's hand. "You're a hero." "No," Bill shook his head. "I was a pilot. And I had a mission. Land 13 men safely. And I did." Sarah asked, "Was Market Garden successful?" Bill's face darkened. "No. The operation failed. Arnhem Bridge couldn't be captured. 10,000 Allied soldiers died, captured, or went missing. Worst of all, glider pilots. 325th Glider Infantry Regiment," Bill whispered. "My unit. 428 glider pilots. After Market Garden. 126 killed. 89 missing. 213 wounded. More than 30% casualty rate. 50%. Bill cried. "Like Tommy. 21 years old. First mission. Last mission. And I survived. Died twice. But survived." Jake knelt, hugged Bill. "You survived because you had to save 13 men. And you did." The following week, Jake announced a new program, Silent Wings Initiative. Modern pilots would learn from glider veterans. Flying without engines. One-chance landings. Courage. Jake gave a speech. "Mr. Harrison taught me 3 things," he said. "First, real pilots fly with courage, not engines. Second, technology matters, but skill is vital. Third, sometimes you have to die, literally, to complete the mission." Bill Harrison passed away 1 year later, at 98, at home. Beside him, old glider wings, a small model, wood and canvas. The funeral was held at the Airborne Museum. Thousands came. Jake too. and market garden veterans, 8 of them, elderly but proud. A new monument was erected. William Bill Harrison, 1922 to 2025 glider pilot, 325th Glider Infantry Operation Market Garden, 1944, died twice. Saved 13 lives. Silent wings, loud courage. Now it's your turn. This story of Bill Harrison reminds us that in our age of advanced technology, billion-dollar fighter jets, autonomous drones, computer-assisted everything, we've forgotten what raw courage looks like. Bill flew a wooden box with canvas wings into enemy territory, with no engine, no weapons, no second chances. And when he crash-landed, died twice, and still pulled 13 men from the wreckage, he proved something modern technology can never replicate: the human spirit's refusal to quit. What does real courage look like to you? Maybe it's someone who kept going when everything said to stop. Someone who chose the dangerous path because it was right. Someone who saved others at the cost of themselves. Courage isn't about having the best equipment or the safest options. It's about what you do when you have neither. Tell us in the comments below. Share the stories of courage you've witnessed. Let's honor the people who prove that the heart matters more than the machine. And if this story moved you, hit that like button to honor Bill and all 428 glider pilots of the 325th. Subscribe to Echoes of Valor for more untold stories from forgotten operations. Share this with someone who needs to remember that courage doesn't need an engine. Tomorrow, we have another story from a mission history forgot. One that will remind you that the most dangerous flights were the silent ones. Until then, remember Bill's words: a real pilot doesn't need an engine, just courage. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering. And thank you for honoring the silent wings that carried victory. We'll see you in the next story.